This is a story about a logging company that harvested timber from private land directly adjacent to Owen Putnam State Forest. The logging concern took advantage of regulations that allowed them to use this state land to store and remove the trees they harvested. By doing so, they increased their profits at the expense of damaging the state forest. It is the public policy of Indiana to protect and conserve the timber, water resources, wildlife, and topsoil in the forests owned and operated by the Division of Forestry for the equal enjoyment and guaranteed use of future generations. However, by the employment of good husbandry, timber that has a substantial commercial value may be removed in a manner that benefits the growth of saplings and other trees by thinnings, improvement cuttings, and at the same time provides a source of revenue to the state and counties and provides local markets with a further source of building material. It all began one fall night. Intrepid Owen Putnam friends, the forest hikers, discovered evidence of logging. We discovered there was no harvest on state land. So out of curiosity, we went back, and this is what we found. Lots of equipment. This is a feller buncher on state land. A buck saw produces a buck pile of logs on state land. These are log debris left over on the landing. A 50,000-pound skidder tractor that drags trees more than a half-mile up the skid trail. Before this trampling, the skid trail hadn't been used in about 30 years. Nature had reclaimed her domain, but now look at this. Even in December, erosion had begun. The skid trail was extended through a hill about 200 feet. Notice the 3 bales of straw. This is a view of the adjacent private land where the logging company harvested. Much of that 30 acres was clear-cut. Unlike a state harvest, each of those trees went a half-mile up the state forest skid trail. Ponder that for a few seconds. How could it occur that state land was used as part of a completely unrelated private timber harvest? The Division of Forestry wrote a land use permit procedure that companies can follow to access the forest for things like power poles and railroad bridge repair. These events are likely rare or necessary. Conveniently, it also allows the removal of timber that was harvested on nearby land. In this case, the logging company used the state forest because they could. There was at least one other option they did not investigate. The logging company followed the procedure and entered into a land use agreement. They agreed to remove all the logging debris unless they were exempted. They agreed to leave the site in a condition equal to or better than the condition they found it in. They paid a refundable damage deposit in case they did not comply with the provisions of the agreement. And they proceeded to log the adjacent property and haul the logs over state ground. The buck pile is still there. The erosion continues. Bale of straw at the top of the skid trail is still there. Japanese stilt grass is really thriving. How is this equal to or better than before? 1 year later, the buck pile remains. The erosion remains. The entire $2,000 damage deposit was refunded to the permittee. What does Owen Putnam Friends of the Forest think? We have been betrayed by the state's behavior. This violates at least the spirit of the enabling statute. Why should private loggers from private land be able to trash and trample our public assets? It is mismanagement. Is there any scientific or otherwise estimate of the damage to the skid trails and landings? We think that it is neither equitable nor consistent. We think it happens too much. If used at all, it ought to be the last resort. This practice has gone on through multiple administrations. It's time to change the practice. What can you do? Tell the Division of Forestry, your legislators, and the governor that it is time to take state forest management to the next level in adherence to all elements of the enabling statute, transparency and accountability with the owners of the forest, proportional treatment of all users of the forest, creation of a balanced, enforceable, long-term plan for our Indiana forests. How can your voice be heard? By contacting the Division of Forestry and leaving your comment. By contacting the Indiana House of Representatives. By contacting the Indiana Senate. If you don't know your rep, use this link to find out. Contact the governor by visiting this link. For questions about this video, contact us at facebook.com/OPSFriends. Support the statewide organization advocating for public forests, the Indiana Forest Alliance, at indianaforestalliance.org.